Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the city of Fort Thomas. Welcome to a historic day in Fort Thomas with the dedication of a lot of things today. Charters of Freedom, Medal of Honor winners, and Veterans Way down here. This is going to be a great day. Just a couple of housekeeping items. A lot of people are standing in line to sign the documents that will be sealed in the Charters of Freedom here to be opened way in the future. So everybody is here. Please make sure you sign it so that you can be included in the time capsule. And we will probably be passing around clipboards during the event. So if a clipboard comes to you, you can go ahead and sign it rather than having to stand up here in line. So with that, again, welcome to Fort Thomas. We ended up with a beautiful day. A little warm, but we're glad everybody's here. I'd like to introduce Pastor Terry Webster to give an invocation for us. Awesome.
Let's pray. God of all creation, God of all people, we join together today to thank you for the celebration for our nation and for our community. It is quite amazing that our nation was born of people from many nations who came here to find freedom, to find equality, to find a better way of life, to find a new home. As we come to this day where we dedicate this beautiful monument, images which remind us of the foundation of our nation, we pray and dare ask that you help each one of us to hold on to all these words that we find here, that all people are created equal, that each one of us has the opportunity to add to the beauty of the United States, that each person plays an instrument in the orchestra of America, with many different instruments that join together to make a beautiful symphony for all the world to hear, that we may celebrate being a nation of many colors and religions and beliefs. We especially join today to remember the lives of men and women, like my own dad, who have served our nation throughout the years in all the branches of the military, who fought, many who gave their lives so that these freedoms and rights will continue to be celebrated for generations to come. And as we drive past this place, as we stop to see the words and images, as we look at the 3 names of the Medal of Honor winners, burn into our heart the responsibility each one of us must carry to ensure that these stand strong for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren for generations unknown. Never let us walk past this spot without stopping to remember and help us to be a part of what today means every day. We pray this in the name of the one we call the Prince of Peace, Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Please stand for the presentation of colors. Veterans, attention! All right, let's go. Forward.
Guard, present, march.
Veterans, present, halt!
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
They don't want anybody sitting here because
Right there.
they're
Okay,
blocking
yeah,
the
we're looking
camera.
for a shade.
Here, hey, sir. Right here.
Maybe right here. There you go. Walk in there, Dan.
Yeah. I look kind of trustworthy. You do. Scoot down. Plus, I got answer. Sure. Good answer. There you go. In the shade. There you go.
Responding to the call, we are
many thanks to the Fort Thomas Children's Choir. Excellent job. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you being here today and part of this program. Next, our speaker is going to be Ron Dill. Ron Dill is the city administrator for Fort Thomas. He's basically my right-hand man, makes me look good as being mayor of the city. And he has taken a real interest in making this project happen. It's been awesome working with Ron. He has been just a great asset to the city, and so much fun to work with in getting things like this done, as well as the VA Homes project. A lot of things we're working on in the city right now. So I'll introduce you to Ron Dill.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to just take a few moments and tell a little bit about the story of how we got to today and acknowledge some of the folks that were participants in the construction and design and all the aspects that brought us to today's event. So, back in the fall of last year, Vance Patterson showed up at our city council meeting, thank you, with an idea for the Charters of Freedom. And this is something that they have done in other parts of the country. It originated in North Carolina, and you're going to hear more about this when he speaks. And he basically petitioned our city council to entertain the possibility of doing a Charters of Freedom in Fort Thomas. To their credit, and our council members, a lot of them are assembled here today, quickly grabbed the idea and said Fort Thomas is exactly the place where this should be constructed and become the first Charters of Freedom in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So your city council should be commended for taking that initiative and commissioning us to go ahead and do this project. A little bit after that, Mayor Haas, and actually Mayor Haas and his wife Jan came to my office and said, look, a lot of these are not publicly funded. We do private donation typically, and they came to the city and said, we would like to be a major donor for this project to make sure that it happens. And so it began. We set about with some private fundraising and made our first call. Not unlike in a lot of instances when the city has projects, one of our first calls is Chris Manning from Human Nature. Chris is in the audience over here. Our first call to Chris was, please help us find a suitable location to place our Charters of Freedom. Vance came back to town. We stood in the rain and walked around Tower Park and settled on this location and said, you know, it really deserves an appropriate and prominent location. And I think that, Chris, you accomplished that. So we decided on this location. Absolutely. And went about design. And again, true to form, no detail was lost in the design. The incorporation of the Medal of Honor winners as part of the design. Chris and his team developed the design that you see in front of you here today. The Pentagon obviously has significant meaning to our country. The shape of the plaques that you see in front of you are representative of the braid on a Medal of Honor recipient. So every detail, as usual, was picked up, and we appreciate your design and your effort on the design. So we went about construction, and you know, I've done a few construction projects around this city through the years, but this one just always took on a special feel and a special meaning. So as we assembled here and began construction, it became pretty evident that the folks involved, our general services crews, our property managers, I see people here in the audience and I'll acknowledge them later, but it was incredible the feeling that overtook everybody as they participated in this project. When people would stop by and ask what we were doing, it was incredible how they reacted to the idea of what we were doing. And the people that worked here continued to use the phrase, I'm honored to be a part of this project. And I felt the same way. So we went about our business. And I can share that when you get involved in a project in Tower Park, you're never certain what you might unearth that existed here previously. And this was no different, this project. And we've all heard the expression where past generations build foundation for future generations. And we quickly discovered the site of the former VA hospital that was located on this portion of Tower Park. And in fact, the knee wall or the seat wall that you see here now serves literally as the foundation for that wall. And we thought that was pretty cool and very significant. So as we move forward, we had the folks from Foundation Forward, Perry Schneider, visit our site. And an interesting, my first encounter with Perry was on the phone, and he was lost in Fort Thomas. So I got him before he got into school traffic and got him to Tower Park. And as he stood here, he was so impressed, and he's done these in other places in the country. And he was so impressed. And in a subsequent visit, he shared with me that when he comes back the next time, he's bringing his wife because he talks so much about Fort Thomas that she now wants to come and visit here. And so I believe that she may have made that trip with him at some point in the future. So as we continued on, we with full intention create this space. Obviously the educational aspects of what's here are evident. When you all are at work or in your homes, and we've left our kids with our teachers, the folks that work at the city have opportunity to see the classes come to Tower Park, particularly the 4th grade classes that come to learn Kentucky history. And they navigate throughout the park with the volunteers and their teachers. I don't know if Amy Lee's here, but she's always leading those groups, and they sit in front of the different monument areas and they tell the story of what it is. And certainly as our American history and the telling of this story, what better place could we have than this location and this prominence in Tower Park for our children to learn from. So we're very proud of what we've constructed here. I would like to just acknowledge a few of the other folks that were part of this. As I mentioned earlier, there was fundraising that took place, and in your program you'll see some of the folks that have already contributed. If you want to be a part of that, it will be memorialized in the time capsule when the time capsule is closed in about a month or so. And you'll hear more about the time capsule as well. But for the folks that were here, Junior Ard, I think I saw in the audience, Jake Hartfeld, Greg Mounts, all of our general services crew, Debbie Buckley, for all their support and hard work on this. Kevin Barbian, I see over here too. These folks put their heart and soul in this, and the feel that they had, I can't express, but if you talk to them, you'll know what I'm talking about, and it's a wonderful thing. I'd like to thank Derek Jarbin for doing the fundraising aspects. Derek's in the back behind you there. Please thank all these folks. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for this community, and we're very proud to have it. And I would like to, at this point, turn it over for formal dedication to the citizens of Fort Thomas. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thanks a lot, Ron. Well, what incredible weather you have here in Fort Thomas. Gosh, what a day we're having. I want to thank you all for being here today. Very proud of you for making the effort to be here on this historic event. My name is Vance Patterson. I'm a resident of Burke County, North Carolina. That's about halfway between Hickory and Asheville in the western part. I am a father of 4, married 43 years to my wife, Mary Jo. I'm a businessman, a manufacturer, have a company that makes industrial fans. We actually make things out of metal, ship them across the country and around the world. Business is really good right now, which is allowing me to do that about which we're here to dedicate. I'm going to tell you a story that lasts about 8 minutes, and then tell you a little about your monument and what I see as the vision for the foundation, very briefly. About 6 years ago, Mary Jo and I were up in Washington, D.C., visiting with some congressmen and some of the organizations up there. And we had some free time, so we went over to the National Archives, because we'd never seen the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution before. Now, for you that have been there, you know you're kind of wandering down this hallway, looking at different exhibits, and then it opens up into this big room. You walk through these big bronze gates into this rotunda, and there are the founding documents on the other side. Declaration of Independence on the left, 4 pages of the Constitution in the middle, and Bill of Rights on the right. And I learned then that these are known as the Charters of Freedom. Now, one of the things I liked was once you got in the rotunda, into the room, you didn't have to wait in any more lines. You just wandered around looking at different exhibits, and when you got your chance, you'd step up and look at the founding documents. The first time I looked at the Declaration of Independence and saw something our founding fathers had actually penned, and saw their signatures, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Rutledge, and the others, I just got goosebumps. And then when I moved over and saw the first page of the United States Constitution and the words, "We the people," I got a lump in my throat. It was really an emotional experience for me. And then we moved down and we saw the Bill of Rights. Now there's 2 things you need to know about the Bill of Rights. First of all, it's really not our Bill of Rights. What is on display is the first proposed 12 amendments. There is no historic document known as the Bill of Rights. The first proposed 12 amendments contain your Bill of Rights. The first 2 were not ratified. The next 10 were. And second, that document is in such bad repair you almost can't read it anymore. It is really faded away. Well, my wife likes to read just about everything. So while she's wandering around the room reading the supporting documents, it gave me a chance to step back to the edge and just take in the moment. I wanted to remember how I felt when I saw these documents. And 2 things occurred to me. First of all, that I would probably never be there again, because it took me over 60 years to get there the first time. And second, that most people would never see these documents. Even though it's free and open to the public, there's just so much to do up in Washington. All the other monuments, the museums, the government buildings and all, that people just don't get over to the National Archives. And then we left. Now, some of you know, because I told you, that I ran for U.S. Congress in the 11th District of Western North Carolina back in 2012. And I tell people, I never worked or I never studied so hard in all my life as when I was running for Congress. Not in high school or college. Because see, we were having 2 and 3 debates sometimes a week. And they were asking questions about the environment and the economy and immigration and taxes and the Federal Reserve and government and foreign governments and the military and on and on. And to me, embarrassment is a tremendous motivator. I didn't want to be in front of a group of 150 people and not be able to address a subject for at least 2 minutes. So I studied evenings and weekends. Well, one of the subjects, of course, they asked about was education. So I did some research and learned that we had 2 founding fathers who were very big on education, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. They believed that there should be 3 forms of education, 3 levels. A primary level where teach our youth how to survive in the world. And that's where you get reading, writing, and arithmetic. Secondary level, teach our youth how to function in life. And that's where you get into accounting and history, some geography, and some of the trades, and the living languages, civics and government. And then the third level, the advanced level, where you get into the arts, the sciences, the professions, and what's known as a culture of virtue. Well, it's no surprise they were very big on civics and government. After all, they laid out most of our government. They believed that in order to have a free and independent society, you must understand how government works. That you cannot control what you do not understand. Later in my campaign, after it was over, well, towards the end, we were attending a National Day of Prayer service on the old Burke Courthouse Green in Morganton, North Carolina. And Mary Jo and I were sitting there, and towards the end of the service, the thought came to me, what if I could duplicate the experience we had up in Washington? The first time we saw the Charters of Freedom. What if I could bring that experience back to the citizens of Burke County? So I started getting excited about it, and after the service was over, I told Mary Jo, and she got excited, and we actually wandered around the green looking for possible settings for the monument. Well, later that year, after my campaign ended, there were 11 of us in the campaign. I ended up finishing up second. There was a runoff. I came in second again, so I was done. So later that year, I started working on a project, and it turned out to be an educational project. And the scope of the project was to design and build a replica of the Charters of Freedom and set it in Burke County. It had to be a central location, high foot traffic, high visibility, and easy access for school children because it was an education project. Well, it took 2 years to get it done. Now, earlier I told you we'd never see them, we'd never get back up to Washington. Well, that wasn't quite true, because what happened was, after it was approved by the city and the county, I realized I'd only seen the monument once, and there were no prints or anything like that online. So the next day, Mary Jo and I got in the car and drove back up to the National Archives. We walked in, and they won't let you just take out a tape and start measuring a national monument or take pictures of it. So we walked in with a plan. Mary Jo went one way and I went the other. And I stepped up in front of the Declaration, or the Constitution, and did this. And I was about halfway in the middle. Meanwhile, Mary Jo is actually walking up to the monuments, standing next to them, turning around, and marking on her body how far the measurements come up. So we left, went back to our hotel room, took the measurements, and that's how we came up with this. So your monument may not be exactly what's in Washington, but keep in mind it's based on 2 paces of a short guy and 3 marks on my wife's body. All right, so we dedicated that monument on July 2nd, 2014. It was a gift from Mary Jo and I to the county. We had such a good time doing this, and it was so well received, we decided to do another one in Cherokee County, as far west as you can go in North Carolina, where Tennessee and Georgia come together, a little town called Murphy. We dedicated the second one there on September 17, 2014. We decided to do some more, so we set up a foundation, a 501c3 called Foundation Forward. We did our third one in Buncombe County, which is Asheville, North Carolina. Now, rumors were starting that I was going to run for Congress again, because all these were in western North Carolina. And I think my wife, Mary Jo, was starting to get a little bit nervous. So we decided to do the fourth one up in Jacksonville, Illinois, Morgan County, where my wife grew up. We did the fifth one in Kokomo, Indiana, where I grew up. The sixth one was done last year down in Columbia, South Carolina. It was a gift from my company to all the children and citizens of South Carolina. We dedicated a seventh one in Sylva, North Carolina, just last month. That makes yours the 8th one to be dedicated outside of Washington, D.C., and the first one here in Kentucky. Hopefully we'll get enough activity here that the rest of Kentucky will say, what is going on in Fort Thomas? And they'll come over and visit and maybe do a monument of their own. All right, let me tell you a little about your monument here. One of the things I learned when I was in college, I went to Hanover College, and I built another monument that was similar, not in scope to this, but it was unapproved. I just did it. But what I learned was, if you want a monument to last, you put more underground than above ground. Your monument here goes down 3.5 feet in the ground. It's reinforced poured concrete. Rebar comes up into a reinforced poured solid concrete core. Just the core and the foundation of that centerpiece weighs over 38,000 pounds, over 19 tons. It's then surrounded by a limestone border and brick fascia. The documents are life-size, which means the Declaration of Independence is a little bit larger than the others. Each document is on a 1/4-inch etched bronze and weighs over 60 pounds. Documents are covered by treated polycarbonate, which is a unbreakable glass. The logo or emblem on the front is unique. We had some artists commissioned to come up with this. The eagle represents the Declaration of Independence, proud, bold, defiant. The 7 stars above the eagle represents the 7 articles of the Constitution. And the 10 stars under the eagle represent your first 10 amendments, your Bill of Rights. These monuments, I tell people, are built to last 300 to 500 years if they're taken care of. Now, people ask us why we're doing this. Certainly they are expensive, but they're more important than money. I believe setting these monuments gives us a direct link to our founding fathers by helping to preserve what it is they gave this country, a government to protect and serve the people. This is an education project from the beginning. As stated earlier, our founding fathers believed that in order to have a free and independent society, you must understand how government works. Thomas Jefferson in 1789 said, "Whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government." And James Madison, a 5'4" virtual rock star of his era, wrote in 1822, "A people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power knowledge gives." You wouldn't believe how many people don't know that there are only 4 pages to our Constitution. They'll walk up and say, "Is that it? That's all there is?" I say, "Yes. Our whole government and most of our laws are based on those 4 pages." You wouldn't believe how many don't know that the first 10 amendments are our Bill of Rights. Imagine, if you will, school teachers bringing their 4th, 5th, and 6th grade classes down here for an annual field trip to learn a little about our founding fathers, a little about our documents, a little about government, state and local government, and some about our local heroes. I've seen this already in Buncombe County, where Commissioner Joe Belcher brought 5th graders down, spent 2 hours, and he said he was amazed at the interest they took in these documents, looking for our founding fathers' signatures and all. Those 5th graders know more about our government, our Constitution, and our founding fathers than most of the people in our country, just because of those 2 hours they spent at that monument. This will happen in Fort Thomas as well. Imagine, if you will, you're driving by here on a Saturday afternoon, and you look over and you see your child or your grandchild's youth group or scouting troop camped out for the night to stand watch over your charters of freedom. They may have a campfire that they're sitting around, a well-contained campfire, and listening to stories about our founding fathers and what they went through to give us this government and these documents. Then later that night, they may watch a patriotic movie like 1776 or The Patriot. And then when it's time to go to bed, they may divide up by 2s and take turns, each group standing an hour watch over your charters of freedom until daybreak. They would remember that night for the rest of their lives. They will always have a special meaning in their heart for these documents in our form of government. There are 3,142 counties, boroughs, parishes, independent cities, and census zones in the United States. Our goal, long-term as a foundation, is to set monuments in as many of those communities as possible over the next 10 years. That's my story and a little bit of my vision. I am so proud of you all for being here today, being out here in this heat to see this historic dedication. Thank you. And now will Mayor Eric Haas please come forward. Mayor Haas, the Charters of Freedom Monument, located in Tower Park, Fort Thomas, Kentucky, is hereby presented from Foundation Forward Incorporated of North Carolina to the children and citizens of Fort Thomas, Kentucky. All rights, responsibilities, and care for this monument, displaying the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, are hereby transferred to Fort Thomas, Kentucky, this day, July 4, 2017.
This is indeed a historic day. I want to thank Vance Patterson for being here today, for helping with this dedication. This is just a neat a neat thing. All the last couple of months that we've been working on this, come up to check on the construction, and people would always be walking around to see what was going on, to say, what is this all about? And that's really neat. And I'm happy for the city and happy for this region that we have a dedication today for this monument, as well as for the rest of the dedications today. So I thank you all, and I think now we're going to do a presentation that may involve some loud noise, so be prepared for that. You've got to warn people about that, correct?
All right, we just have two more things. They won't take very long. First of all, as heard earlier, we've got a time capsule in the back of the center monument here. That time capsule, or the vault, will have a time capsule put in it. In the time capsule will be letters from the mayor, from education group, from some veterans. These will all be on archival paper. They'll be sealed up. We'll have one from law enforcement and other officials from the town. We'll also have the newspaper clippings in there of the week and other memorabilia of the era. It'll be sealed later this summer. Won't be opened until September 17th, 2087, the 300th anniversary of our U.S. Constitution. All time capsules in the country will be opened the same day, so it should be a fairly interesting time. Now, I'm going to give the combination of the time capsule to Mayor Haas. So if any of you are here on September 17th, 2087, and they can't find the combination, well, you know who had it last. All right, last thing we're going to do for our dedication is going to be a cannon salute. If my drummer will come up here, drummer Samantha McKinney. And if my cannoneers will report to the cannon site. I knew I wanted to do a cannon salute, but I didn't know how many times to fire the cannons. Everybody loves a cannon salute. So I did some research. I knew I didn't want to do 21 times, so I did some research. And the cannon salute, remember this is an education project, originated back in the 1600s. When ships would come into port, they didn't know whether they were friendly or not, so they would turn their cannons to the sea and fire them, to discharge them. They'd fire 7 rounds. Now this did 2 things. First of all, it weakened their position. Anytime you fire your weapon, you weaken your position. Second, it showed respect for the port they were pulling into. Now the port, having more cannon and more powder, would answer 3 in kind. So that's where you get your 21 guns originally. Well, I knew that was too much, so I did a little more thinking and remembered I've done business over in Scotland. And in Edinburgh, Scotland, they fire a cannon to mark the time of day. The Scottish liked what the British did, because the British would fire at noon, 12 rounds, so the shopkeepers could set their clocks, and the captains at port could set their clocks. They'd fire 12 rounds. Well, the Scottish, being Scottish, and I am Scottish, reasoned, why fire 12 rounds at 12 o'clock when they could wait 1 hour and shoot 1 round? So every day in Edinburgh, there's a howitzer that sits up in the old castle that goes off at 1 o'clock. So I knew my number was somewhere between 1 and 21. And I decided on 7. First of all, because of history. And second, there are 7 articles to our U.S. Constitution. So we are going to fire 1 round for each article of the Constitution. Are my cannoneers ready? Drum roll, please. Article 1 defines the legislative branch, composed of the House of Representatives and the Senate. It describes their powers and workings. Article 2 defines the executive branch, the qualifications for president and vice president, their powers, duties, and means of removal from office. Article 3 sets up the judicial branch, the Supreme Court, and the court system. It protects the right of trial by jury and defines treason. Article 4 regulates the state's powers and their interaction with the federal government. Article 5 outlines the process of amending the United States Constitution. Article 6 sets up the status of the United States Constitution as the supreme law of the land, to which all leaders, including the legislative, executive, and judicial, must be loyal. Article 7 addresses the ratification and declares that the United States Constitution should take effect if 9 out of 13 states ratify. Children and citizens of Fort Thomas, Kentucky, I give you your charters of freedom.
Again, thank you, Vance. That was wonderful. And we have 2 more items on the agenda today. And now I'd like to introduce, for our Medal of Honor presentation, Deanna Beinecke, the board chairman of the Fort Thomas Museum.
Can you lower this?
Oh, of course.
I think I need it lower. Thank you. I don't have any cannons, so it's going to be quiet, and that's a heck of an act to try to follow. Today we honor 3 men who served their country with honor and distinction. Each of them lived here on these grounds of Fort Thomas, all of them soldiers with the United States Army. Thomas Doherty was just 16 when he emigrated by himself from Ireland in 1885. In 1891, he joined the Army. As a member of the 21st Infantry, he earned a Medal of Honor for his bravery during the Battle of Santiago during the Spanish-American War. Less than a year after returning from that war, he was deployed to the bloody insurrection in the Philippines, reportedly even more hell on earth. Suffering from frequent bouts of malaria, dysentery contracted in Cuba, and probably shell shock, now known as PTSD, Doherty was assigned to Fort Thomas with the 4th Infantry as acting drum major for the Color Guard. In September 1906, the 4th received orders to transfer to Fort Benjamin Harrison in Indiana to prepare for deployment to Cuba once again. On the night of September 21st, after drinking heavily and reportedly despondent, Thomas Doherty committed suicide. He was buried with full military honors in Evergreen Cemetery. Samuel Woodfill has the strongest ties to Fort Thomas, and we have a school named after him. You or your children may have attended Samuel Woodfill School. He enlisted at age 19 in 1901 and was assigned to Fort Thomas in 1912. He married local girl Lorena Wiltshire on Christmas Day in 1917, and by April 1918 he was on his way to Europe with General Pershing to fight the war to end all wars. Woodfill earned his Medal of Honor during the Battle of the Meuse-Argonne on October 12, 1918. He cleared out not 1, but 3 German machine gun nests in one day. His courage also earned him a number of other military honors from other allies, making him the most highly decorated soldier of World War I. General Pershing selected Samuel Woodfill as one of the 4 original members of the Honor Guard at the dedication at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Washington, D.C. Woodfill and his wife continued to live right here in Fort Thomas, out here on Alexandria Pike, until Lorena's death in 1942. Following his participation in a morale-boosting tour of the country during World War II, Woodfill retired to a farm in Beebe, Indiana, where he died in 1951. He is now buried in Arlington Cemetery. One that I discovered about 5 years ago, Don Carlos Faith Jr., Patty to his friends, was an Army brat who grew up on bases both in the United States and overseas. His father was transferred here to Fort Thomas and became the planning and training officer for the fort. Their family moved into number 7 Alexander Circle. Patty spent his junior and senior years at Highlands High School, graduating from Highlands in 1937, making him a son of Fort Thomas. While at Highlands, he participated in track, tennis, and football, and was vice president of the Rifle Club, believe it or not, during his senior year. A medical disqualification kept him from attending West Point, so he attended Georgetown University in D.C. for foreign service training. An appeal lifted that medical disqualification, and Don entered OCS at Fort Benning in June of 1941. Assigned to the 82nd Airborne during World War II, he earned 2 Bronze Stars. Following World War II, he was made a battalion commander with the 7th Infantry Division in Japan. He entered action in Korea when hostilities broke out, earning a Silver Star in addition to the Bronze Stars. During the 5 days of the bitter Battle of Chosin Reservoir, Lieutenant Colonel Faith led his battalion and others to safety under the worst conditions until he was mortally wounded on December 2nd, 1950. His leadership, bravery, and sacrifice during this pitched battle earned him a Medal of Honor, presented posthumously to his widow and daughter in 1951 by General Omar Bradley. In 2004, 54 years after the Battle of Chosin Reservoir, a box of mixed remains was turned over to the United States by the North Koreans. A DNA match with his daughter confirmed Lieutenant Colonel's Faith's return. That was confirmed in 2012. He was laid to rest in 2013 next to his parents in Arlington Cemetery. These Medal of Honor recipients were recognized for their conspicuous gallantry under fire, and we honor and remember them with these plaques. The city of Fort Thomas has lost many of its sons in battle, and each one is remembered by family and friends. The veterans with us today are no less heroes because they had the great good fortune of surviving their battles, and each of them is worthy of our appreciation today and every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, for the dedication of Veterans Way, Steve Pendry, our Campbell County Judge Executive, will do the dedication of Veterans Way.
I thought of 3 things to say. First thing is that battle glory is best viewed in the aftermath and from a distance, where our pride and our gratitude can take over. But when you get closer, you can see through to the other side and appreciate that suffering and death and sacrifice was required to win it. The second thing is that sacrifice is born very unevenly. There are 330 million of us living in this country today. We have about 1.5 million men and women under arms. In the entire history of the country, 1 million people have died in battle. Millions more have been wounded. But it's still a small fraction who serve, and a smaller fraction still that make the ultimate sacrifice that is borne not only by the individual, but by their family and their friends. The third thing is that freedom is not free. Freedom is not free. All that we have and all that we are comes to us because of the sacrifices made by the men and women in our armed services. And with these 3 things in mind, I want to offer up the avenue here for dedication and explain that while my emotion right now, this subject matter deserves it. I was thinking of a certain veteran who died last night. My dad. With that, we dedicate Sean Donlin is going to pull down unveil the street. Veterans. Man.
Thank you, Steve, for such a heartfelt dedication. Thank you all very much. Make sure that, hey, Matt, it's feedback. Anyway, make sure you get a chance to sign the papers that are going into the time capsule. Everybody have a wonderful day. Hang out around here at the fort or go home, take a nap, and then come back, because that's what I want to do. All right? Thank you all so much for being here.
That was hard to get up there.